Hey everybody, I just got back from the 2010 ProAm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's an all-steel match with par times, which basically means you cannot shoot past the designated time per stage. There's more steel on every stage than any one shooter could possibly knock down in the allotted amount of time, at least for the amateurs. The pros did pretty well. If you do break a shot after the time is expired, there's a penalty incurred per shot fired, and each steel is worth 1 point. I shot both limited and open for the match. I figured since it was a 9-hour drive for me that since I was gonna be there for a few days, I'd shoot both guns. So on Saturday I shot limited, and the next day I shot my open gun. I shot the exact same stages the second time with the open gun, and I only scored 1 point better with my limited gun than I did with my open gun.
This is stage 2. Yeah, the shooter had to start outside the shooting area with your hands on the wall, and then once the buzzer went off, you had 14 seconds for open to shoot as many steel as you could, and if it was limited, you had 16 seconds. And I shot the first array, as you can see, through the port, performed a reload, then I shot the second array through the port, and then I did another reload and shot the third array, and one of the targets in the very back of the third array opens the door automatically to a fourth array.
Stand by.
Stage 3 was shaped like an X, and if you stood in the middle of it, you could see a lot of targets. So I started off with the limited gun, and I shot the first array. Then I turned and shot the second array, performed a reload, shot some of the fifth array, and then the third, and then the fourth, performed another reload, and started to advance towards the fifth array again to finish up the targets I couldn't hit. And that's when the timer ran out on me. There was a 16-second par time for the limited. And then the second run with the open gun, I decided to change up a little bit. Started off exactly the same, where I shot the first array, the second array, performed a reload. This time I went straight for the third, then the fourth, performed a reload, and started to move towards the fifth and try to engage as much as I could.
Stand by. Shooter ready. Stand by.
Stage 4 had you start with your loaded gun on a barrel, and upon the start signal you left the wall, picked up your gun and engaged the targets, climbed up a set of staircase, so to speak, shot the report at a second array of targets, came down the stairs and engaged a third array, and then finally a fourth array. With my open gun I had a little bit of trouble finding the red dot inside, but eventually had a decent time. The par time was 20 seconds for open and 22 seconds for limited.
Stand by.
Stage 6 had the competitor starting with one knee on the ground holding the front tire of this car, and your gun and magazine sitting unloaded was on a barrel around the trunk of the car. On the start signal you had to jump up and run over, load your gun, and engage the first set of targets, and then the second set of targets, and then a third, and finally a fourth. But the par time of 16 seconds for open gun kept me from doing this, and it was 18 seconds for limited for this stage.
Are you ready? Stand by.
couldn't really figure out how to do stage 7 effectively, so basically I left the shooter's box and got as close to the targets as I could and just started to hose as what I could see. I had a reload problem on both limited gun and open gun, and I just flat out dropped my magazine. The par time was 20 seconds for limited and 18 seconds for open.
Are you ready? Stand by!
Stage 8 had 4 sets of tubes. Everyone on our squad pretty much opted to bypass the first sets of tubes since there was more targets available on the second set of tubes. Then at the doorway, once you got to the doorway, they had 6 large pepper poppers, an activator plate that allowed 3 other plates to come sliding past for the competitor to shoot. The par time was 17 seconds for limited and 15 seconds for open.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Good.
Seems to be the...
Shooter ready. Stand by!
The tiebreaker stage was used to resolve any ties that happened for competitors having the same score. So if you had 2 competitors with 150 points, for example, how do you determine who beats who? Well, it all depends on how fast they can knock down these plates.
Shooters ready. Stand by.